So today we have the honor of welcoming Erika Ettin to our podcast. Through her company, A Little Nudge, Erika has shared her invaluable wisdom with thousands of clients, helping them navigate the often complex world of online dating. Her unique blend of analytical thinking, creativity, and a love for puns, paired with her dedication to her clients' happiness, makes her a testament to the transformative power of effective online dating strategies. Today we have the privilege of delving into her wealth of knowledge, exploring the intricacies of dating, relationships, and the secrets to success in the world of online romance. Erika, thank you for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Wow. I that was a beautiful
Hannah's
introduction.
words.
I just can't say it out loud for some reason. I just get really tongue-tied. So he says it beautifully. So
It was beautifully said.
just reading.
I want to meet me.
I think Alana said the same thing too. She's like, I want to meet this woman.
Yeah.
Yes, but welcome.
Thank
How's
you.
your day?
My day's been great. Busy. Most of my meetings are on Zoom, so I like efficiency. I'm back to back to back.
I love that. And I know earlier this week we figured out that ours was in person.
Yes.
And we like to push the in-person interactions.
I like in person. You asked me what I like to drink.
And we have some whiskey.
Whiskey.
And I'm glad I made the right decision.
You did.
With the.
Cheers.
I'm a bourbon girl.
Cheers.
That's awesome.
Though Joe's trying to get us drunk with these heavy
know.
pours. My lord.
So where would we like to start, Hannah? With
I think it's really fascinating, probably to start from the beginning, because I think that both of you so weirdly and serendipitously both came from the finance world and then stepped into the world of dating. Obviously, you were dating apps and you was a dating coach. So how did that happen?
Well, I'll tell you the abridged version. So I think, maybe you can relate to this. I think growing up, at least for me, I was taught, like, you do the thing that's safe. You do the thing that's marketable. You get the job that is stable. And so I studied economics. I always liked math. I figured, all right, that makes sense. And then I took a job in finance at Fannie Mae in D.C. after college because I'm like, again, I can do it, so I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing. And it came with, the benefits and the retirement plan, all the things. But I wasn't happy there. You'll get to know my personality. Like, sitting in a cubicle is not meant for me. I still love spreadsheets, but like, how many hours a day can you stare at, columns and rows? And so many is the answer. But separate and apart from that, I was a really early adopter of online dating. I started online dating in 2001. And
2001.
So what was that? That was
it was
not Plenty of Fish.
Plenty of Fish, I think, was out. So Match.com came out in the 90s. I was using JDate, a site to meet someone Jewish.
I actually still see JDate ads on
It still exists.
on Instagram.
It came out in 97. OkCupid actually came out in 2003, so
Okay.
I did it before that. So I was using JDate at the time, and I was just like, I don't know, I was a nerd. I was like, this seems like a cool way to meet people in that voice. And and so I was meeting interesting people. Of course, my parents were like, what are you finding on the internet,
Because I'm sure. So I was part of like the Tinder, Bumble, Hinge
Okay.
phase.
So within the last 10 or 11
generation.
years. Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I'm sure back then it was even more secretive to be online
Of course,
dating.
you didn't tell people. I went to weddings. I went to a wedding once where the rabbi lied for the couple, and I'm like, this cannot be a good start to a wedding.
No.
But anyway, whatever, that's on them. So I did it on and off for years, and because of my background in economics and my love of spreadsheets, I started a spreadsheet of my own online dating experience. And first, it was initially so I didn't accidentally write to the same person twice.
Wow,
And
that's
That's
so
hilarious.
brilliant, because one of our pain points
Uh-huh.
and why I made the app was because sometimes I would say the same thing to the woman,
Uh-huh.
and she'd be like, you asked me that yesterday, which is clearly a sign of you're saying the same thing to everybody.
Well,
what a turnoff.
Well, right, and I didn't want to do that.
Right.
And it was usernames at the time, like not like Joe, Hannah, Erica. It was like Fun Girl New York, whatever. so I was keeping these usernames, and it was JDate. So you get some really interesting. I still remember my favorite. It's not PC. It was fine, whatever. It was Hung Like a Mezuzah, which
That was yours.
no, God no.
Oh, I was like, wow.
imagine?
No.
What's a mezuzah?
It's a thing that hangs on your door that like has a prayer in it.
So this was this guy's
It was this,
name.
That's hilarious.
It's dirty but very funny.
Okay.
So like, all the usernames made the list, like Dr. Schnoz, all the stuff, whatever. I still remember some of them. But then I was like, I can track things in here. Like, what's my response rate? What percentage of men write back to me if I send them a message? And then what's my conversion rate? If they write back, what's the probability we go on a date? And I made little tweaks like length of messages and length of my own profile and how many pictures to use. And I improved those rates. I mean, I'm a nerd at heart.
Can I ask you a question?
Ask
Did
me
you
all the questions?
Because it seems like you were way ahead of the game.
Way
but
ahead of the game.
these seem like things that Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge would pay a lot of money for.
I'm sure they would, but the problem is it's not statistically significant because I'm one person.
Yeah.
So I could never have a sample size large enough, but I learned enough for me
Yeah.
and clearly enough to start a business doing it. And I've been collecting data since I've started. And so that's when my friends were noticing, like, what are you doing that I'm not? Help me, help me. And, you know, so I started writing their profiles. I've always loved writing, and I didn't really get to do that at my former job. And they were meeting people. And I kind of had this idea, okay, I wonder if I could actually, you know, do this for a living. And so in early 2011, I quit my job at Fannie Mae and started a business helping people with online dating. And that's how we got here.
Wow.
Incredible.
Thank you.
I love the name too, A Little Nudge.
Aw, thank
I
you.
think it's just such a perfect, concise way of saying it.
Thank you. When I
Nudge you into
turn
it.
this way, does this still work okay?
I assume so.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Wolf is saying yes.
I don't
But-
want to ignore you.
No, but
But
you're
yeah,
fine.
so I have like a million questions.
Okay, I like
guess,
a million answers.
I guess like, so 2011, you had to have some type of Rolodex or some type of growth already going to quit such
I did not. So I really took a leap. And, you know, it's funny. I have an MBA, but I never thought I was going to start a business when I was getting the MBA. And so, like, I sort of paid attention in entrepreneurship class, but, like, not really. And I was nervous to tell anyone what I was doing because I like to succeed in what
Yeah.
I do. And I was afraid I would change my mind or whatever. So I didn't tell anyone until the day I actually gave notice. And no, I did not start the business before I quit because I was also afraid that if I still had a paycheck coming in, I would have a crutch and not work as hard. And
Wow.
So I calculated how long I could live if I made no money. And it was a year. And I thought, if I fail, I have a year of runway and then I go back to a boring job. But because of that, and because who wants to fail, I worked my tail off so that I never share this, but like I never had to use savings. I worked so hard to get my first, you know, handful of clients. And I feel like all of that hard work still pays off.
that is amazing.
I feel like you two are very parallel in that.
Thank
I
you.
was just gonna say, so like a big thing for me is obviously the app and dating
Yeah.
and like creating this
Yeah.
Culture
Helping
for
people find love.
for
Mhm.
finding love. And then the other side of me is very passionate about being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And when you find people who do both,
Yeah.
it's oh my god,
Well, it's nice to be
so
able
exciting.
to relate to someone else. But it's funny, like, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. It was, I wanted to do this. It didn't exist. So you have to do it
So in
yourself.
turn, you had to become an entrepreneur to be
Yeah,
able
and
to
I
make
think
it
Correct.
happen.
going back to your original points, I remember when I was in college. And by the way, if you have an economics degree, that's way more elevated than a normal like finance or marketing or
I was
management
actually
degree.
just reading about that.
Yeah,
recently. I was
economics is like the
economics
real smart people. I remember, so I was doing corporate bond trading,
Okay.
and the kids that were next to me from like Villanova and Harvard, they were like, "Oh, we studied economics." I'm like, "Oh, you're a real smart.
You're a smart.
You're a real smarty."
I liked economics. Anyway.
But I remember my mom telling me, you know, you have to find a salary. Like, don't even get a sales job. And I was like, Mom, I'm doing like trading. Like, it's
Yeah.
it's a great sales job.
Yeah.
She's like, no, like find a very stable job. And it made me think like, okay, I got that job. I was making great money, but I
Same.
was sitting at this trading desk
Yeah.
every day, and I was looking at all the guys around me, and I was like, okay, you have a lot of money, but you're very overweight. You eat cheeseburgers for lunch
Are
every
you
day.
fulfilled?
I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I felt that way too. It just, it was the stable thing, but I wasn't happy. And I didn't actually even tell my parents until after I gave notice because I knew they would try to talk me out
Mhm.
of quitting. Same thing. I was doing well. I, you know, had all the bells and whistles, and I told them, and for like a good 3 months, all they talked about was health insurance, and I'm like, I will get health insurance.
It's funny
It's
to be
fine.
fully transparent with you.
Yeah.
We are in like a health insurance transition right now,
Okay.
and like we don't even care because it's like we'll figure. Like if something happens, like you should have it. You should have
You
it.
should have health
I
insurance.
can't condone not having it,
But
but
I'm
you'll
just
get
like,
it. You'll
"Oh,
figure
yeah,
it out.
I'll figure it out.
Right. And I mean, I don't even know if I've told my mom to this day I went 5 days without. And I went to a wedding in those 5 days. I'm like, please don't break your ankle. Please don't break, all is fine.
But to your other point, which I think is great, and a lot of people don't have this luxury, but I told my friends and people who were like, what are you doing, like quitting your job? And I said exactly what you said. I said, if doing my dream doesn't work, I can easily not even go back to my old job, but I've learned so much as a person that I could demand an even bigger salary and say, hey, I know how to manage a lot of people and a team.
You're not going to lose those skills.
Right.
No. And so, I mean, look, I'm very grateful. I never had to go back, and it made sense. Like, when I gave notice, my boss said to me, he said, it's about time. Like, he knew.
Oh, but that's really lovely that he
was.
kind of
We're
said that in a
friends.
way.
I mean, it just wasn't the right personality fit for me.
Yeah.
And, I've learned, you get one chance, and you should do the thing that you're best suited for. Like, I felt like they never cared at Fannie Mae that I was able to talk to people. Like, all they cared about was the analytical stuff. And that's fine. I learned how to, like, program. That's fine. And my boss used to make fun of me because I would do this, like, complicated coding thing that I taught myself. And then he'd be like, amazing. What should we do with the results? Like, what do you recommend for policy? And I'm like, I don't care.
But I used to think the same way because I don't know you too well yet, but I was definitely not as smart as you.
I'll finish this
And then we'll know a lot.
You'll know
I was definitely
very
not
well.
as smart as you. And I would always I always wanted to be a CEO, and I would look at the CEO and the C-level executives, and I would just think, okay, I can never get there because I will never be able to comprehend what they know intellectually. But then as I got older and started doing this, I was like, no, a CEO is somebody who could talk to people and manage people and like manage a team and a vision. And then it like inspired me where I was like, oh yeah, like talking to people and making people believe in you, like that's the key to life, not how many business plans can you write up?
Well, exactly. And I always wanted to do something. Like, I felt like a lot of the frustration I had in my former job was I could have a great idea, but to get that implemented was impossible. When you have to go through a million hurdles and people who just don't listen or don't care, or it has to go through a million steps.
The red tape and the politics
for
of it
no
all.
reason. As a business owner, I can do whatever I want at any time. I could change my price right now if I want. I could change my whole business right now if I want. I'm not going to, but I could. And I don't have to ask anyone because it's mine. And I get to do what's best for me. And the other thing was I didn't feel like I was helping people.
Yeah.
Like, I was in mortgage finance, and like, yeah, maybe I helped one person pay their mortgage better. Fine. But now I get to help people in such an emotional way, such a tangible way, an intimate way. And I feel good about what I'm doing now in a way I could never say before.
I think that's the truth because I took such a pay cut to do this, and every day I wake up, I'm so happy. I'm like,
not only did you take
amazing.
a pay cut, but you bootstrapped it.
I bootstrapped it, took a pay cut,
for a
and
long
like
time.
what I'm doing now, and like obviously the growth is it's there, like, and the potential's there, but in the meantime, just the happiness of just doing this is work for me, and it's like I couldn't ask for more.
Plus, you get to hang out with your wife all day.
That's true.
I mean, that's a good reason. I mean, I probably do work 3 times as much as I used to.
But you love it.
But I love what I do, and every minute I put in benefits the business or benefits a client, and so it's worth it.
Well, what's that saying? You love what you do, you never work a day in your life?
Yeah.
I mean, no, I still work.
No doubt. But I'm sure that like the fulfillment element of being able to do that, like even just knowing you for 7 minutes now, I could not imagine you sitting in a cubicle for the rest of your life.
I still remember. I wonder if she remembers this. So I still remember when I was in business school. I was still at Fannie Mae. I went at night to business school. And they had this night of like, meet the new dean. And I'm like, that sounds like fun. Because I'm like, ooh, cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, whatever.
Yeah, love.
Oh, yeah, and the dean. So so I went, and I still remember what I was wearing because that's what the story's about. It was like casual Friday at work. So I was wearing, it matters. I don't need to talk about my outfits. But I was wearing these black jeans and this like color block shirt with this cowl neck and these big circle.
Chunky chunks.
Like artsy looking earrings and these yellow boots.
Okay.
So I show
brave.
up.
A yellow boot is brave.
Yes.
I will give you that.
So I show up at this event, and the new dean asks me what I do, and I'm like, I'm an economist. And she goes, no, you're not. And I said, what do you mean? I just drove here from work. I'm an economist at Fannie Mae. She goes, no. And I said, what am I then? She goes, you're an artist. And I'm just like, But, you know, I still think back on that. Like, she knew something about me I didn't know about me yet, that I was just in the wrong
That's amazing.
field. Yeah.
Wow.
That is incredibly phenomenal. I love how random people can read you sometimes.
Yeah,
Just
and
off
then
your
small
mind.
world. I know I'm going off on a million tangents,
No, it's
but
good.
Perfect.
one of my first clients, like one of my big clients in the first year was this woman, Lisa. And I met her. I used to go to a lot of speed dating events to hand out business cards. Like I asked the company if I could come because I needed to grow a database of like a mailing list. And so I would go to these speed dating events twice a week. I mean, it was exhausting, and just hand out cards and get people to sign up for my mailing list. And this lady, Lisa, comes and she puts her name down. And I still remember I emailed everyone personally after. I couldn't read her email address. And I must have tried 4 times, and it finally got to her. And I'm glad I had perseverance because she ended up being my first ever like big ticket client.
Okay.
And I worked with her. I ended up finding her husband on Match.com. I mean, they're like
And she was your first client.
first like I'll explain my services, but
Yeah.
first client, I actually managed her online dating for her.
Wow, that's
So
incredible.
that's the majority of what I do, and we'll talk about that. But so I was doing her online dating for her, and I found this guy Rob on Match.com, and I'm like, Lisa, you should go out with Rob. And she's like, I don't know, he's not divorced yet. I'm like, well, you have to be separated before you're divorced, so like, anyway, they're like retired together now.
Aww.
And anyway, so I get this phone call from Lisa once that was like, I guess she was in the car driving with her friend, and she was talking about working with me, and it turns out the friend was the dean. And it just like
Randomly.
kidding
yeah,
me?
so she's talking, and then the dean goes, is it Erica?
Did you still know the dean?
It was right after I had met the dean, and they both put it together, because how many people do what I do?
True.
And so, and the funniest thing is, the dean said to me later, she goes, Lisa was talking about not how much she liked the men. She's like, she liked working with you. And I'm like, oh, that's really
That's
nice.
amazing.
That's very lovely.
Yeah.
Wow. So I know you have a lot of questions and you want to get into
No, I was about to say, I want to ask, I think more so about, what were you about to say? About the
the
process?
service,
Yeah,
the
like,
service itself, but also like, so there's a lot of questions. Again.
Okay.
so many.
The service itself,
Uh-huh.
but also like, did you simultaneously, a million questions, date yourself on
Whilst you were doing
Match.com
this.
and all this
Date
stuff?
myself?
No, like
Like,
not date yourself, but
look
like were
to
you
date.
dating yourself as well alongside of working with your clients?
When I started the business, I was in a serious long-term relationship.
Okay.
So at that time, no. Have I since? Sure, of course. I'm going to do the things I'm best at, right? But in terms of the services, it's interesting. So what I do the most is people actually hire me to outsource their online dating to me. And so
In what sense? Like writing the messages, like curating their profiles?
Well, who's the woman that
Yes,
we met
all of
in,
it, yes.
who's the woman we met in LA that does the same thing? She was from New York.
Oh, it's somewhere vaguely in
Some-
the back of
okay,
my mind.
but-
In any case, we're not talking
yes.
about
You'll
that.
let
We're
me
talking
know
about
later.
Erica.
So yes, so a client hires me, and I call it my platinum package, and I interview them for an hour. I write their profile for whichever dating sites we decide on. I get them a photo shoot actually to make sure they have some nice, good, accurate, recent
Wait,
pictures.
before we go, can you? So Hannah today, my best friend,
Uh-huh.
he needed dating app photos
Hey,
because
Vin.
Okay.
as a guy, guys don't take photos and we don't take dating app photos.
I know.
So like we're terrible. So she hired Hannah to
I
take
love
his
it. I'll
dating
take
app
a look
photos.
at them
Please,
later.
let's
Yeah,
do
take
it
a-
right now.
You want to do it right
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
sure.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll get back to the thing.
I'll tell you my favorite guy pose in a minute. Oh, that's good.
Right?
Oh, these are good.
Like
Well-
having a bit of a smart.
Oh,
That's
yeah, these are really nice.
But like, look how nice that's just an iPhone.
Yeah, no. So that's my favorite man pose.
Yeah,
It's
that
the-
was my
it's
favorite
the-
too.
It's the,
Steven?
you're on the steps, you're leaning forwards like you're having a conversation with your elbows sort of on your legs. I think that's the most natural man pose.
All right, I'm gonna call him after this and be like, we had a professional on, saying
Yeah,
we're amazing.
that's
so
why I
don't
wanted
at
to
me.
go
That's
through
the
it.
one I would pick. The one where he's sitting on the step.
This one with
Yeah.
a grin.
Yeah, sitting on, not that one. Sitting on the step like that. It's casual.
Show the coffee one too.
Not the one looking aloof. That's like,
Okay, how about that?
no.
Oh,
No,
shit.
it's too posed.
Vin liked
about
that
like
one
this?
as his best.
Not too posed. Okay.
So it's
my
like
natural
he's like one of
instinct
those
was wrong.
tourists like that takes
It's not
the.
wrong. It's just,
Not what it needs to be. In any case, going back to the structure of your.
Yeah, so, but you did a beautiful job.
Thank you very much, darling.
You're welcome. So then once we have all the pieces together, I'll put them up online on 2 sites, whatever we decide, and then I'll manage their accounts for either 3 or 6 months, whatever they sign up for. I will do the swiping, do the messaging, do all of the legwork, and get them to the date. Time, date, location. Then
Okay.
I pass along the information to them. The person at the other end does not know it's me. Now, this is something we talk about. I try to keep the conversation as short as possible because I don't want to play the role of my client. I just want to facilitate getting to a date because so many people get stuck in the messaging.
Okay, this is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. This is very
Go
exciting.
for it.
Well, I think it's because it's hitting the absolute nail on the head
Well,
as
it's
to
just-
why
yeah.
Joe created the app.
Okay. First question,
Yes.
and I think you kind of answered as you kept talking, but you respond and talk to the other person for your client.
As the client, yes.
Now, like, how is that?
Has that ever gotten tricky? Like,
No. Again, I keep the conversation really short. I'm not saying anything very personal. I mean, what is it about? Movies, food, playing tennis, whatever. It's very surface level stuff, and I am able to efficiently I have a few, tricks, not tricks, but little
ways to handle a conversation.
rules of thumb I use to get the conversation to the date in an extremely quick manner.
This
because
is amazing.
ultimately, I don't know if they're going to have chemistry. So I'd rather they just go on the date. So I skip all phone calls, all texting, all everything, and set up the date.
just see Joe's eyes.
Well,
light
because
up with
all I
absolute
knew
joy.
about Erica was that she was in the dating world
Well,
and was a
it's
dating coach.
funny
I didn't know that you were very aligned with what we're doing.
Well, it's really funny because, Instagram I've grown over the last few years. That's how you came across me. That's how I came across you. And it's funny because I've been doing this for as long as I have. And so it's funny now people are like, oh, you're a dating coach, which I am, obviously. And coaching is probably my favorite part where I'm just one-on-one coaching clients. But the biggest part of the business, like how I make money, is people hiring me to do the online dating.
You're like a dating curator.
I like that.
I really enjoy
Makes
that.
me sound fancy, like a museum.
Very fancy. Yeah. But that's basically what it is. It's like you're giving people, you're kind of taking that element off the plate, but whilst encouraging them and helping them understand, like, the longer that you chat on these apps, the more tedious the process is, the more you become these faux pen pals with each
Well,
other.
exactly. You build a false sense of intimacy, or more likely, the date never happens because someone says something they shouldn't, or someone drops the ball, or someone sends a dumb picture. And it's just like, I want to avoid all of that because I just want to get you on the date. You decide for yourself. I don't want to be in the process any longer.
Because how are you supposed to know until you're in front of that person?
You don't.
Whereas
I love this. So, yeah, we have like 3 main things that we really talk about, which I did through my own research and like what I wanted. And one of the things that we've found, and obviously we do research now because, we've got a bigger team, but it was people creating this false sense of who the other person is for the better or the worse.
Correct.
Where it's like you build somebody
Absolutely.
up who could be an amazing person, but you're setting them up so high that when you meet them, you're let down.
You're going to be disappointed.
And then the other thing is, like you said, if you talk to them too long, you find a reason to not go on the date.
Yes, exactly. Too many obstacles to the first date. I call everything that other than the date is an obstacle to the date. So texting too much, phone calls, video calls. Now, I get it. If you don't live near each other, fine, do a video call. But if you do, just go on the date. It's an hour out of your life. What would you have been doing anyway? Scrolling Instagram?
This is so perfect for us.
I literally can see the cogs like turning in your brain.
It's
Oh my god, this
perfect.
is amazing. Oh my god, this is amazing.
You have like the
I have a
cartoon
question
eyes
for
now.
you. Yeah. So one thing that we like to do is we only allow our users to have 1 date per day. So they could focus on like one person at a time, and
neat.
it could only be like for a week in advance. So the
Okay,
max you
good.
could have is 7
7
potential
dates
connections.
throughout the week. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
What do you recommend to your clients on like how many people should they be communicating with at once?
That's a good question. So I have something I call the 550 rule. So let's say you're on Bumble and you're swiping. Stop at 5 matches. Like, just stop swiping. You don't need 30 matches. 5 is good. And then write to them. The 50 comes in, or swipe 50 times. Because you could swipe 3,000 times while you're sitting. So that way it's not like this addictive game thing. It's, I'm doing this for the day, 550. I swipe 50 times. If I don't get 5 matches, fine. I'll do it again later. If I do, stop and write to all of them.
And explore those
That-
options.
yeah,
before
so it's
you
funny
then go on
because
to
like
others.
all I do is read this stuff, and the
Yeah.
fact that you probably are the ones that they found it from. But what I was reading was that if someone spends more than 15 minutes on a dating app, after the 15 minutes, they've kind of lost focus and they're on there for the wrong reason. So I want to get your perspective on that.
I don't know that statistic, but it sounds accurate to me. Because after a while, you're just mindless. I mean,
It's
I
like
just
social
got
media.
off. I mean, I a minute before I hopped on the subway to get here, I just got off a coaching call with someone. And the way I do coaching, which is different from, so another service is coaching, which is I'll get with you on Zoom, one-on-one, and you'll actually share your phone screen with me over Zoom, and I'll see what is going on in your apps. And usually I can pinpoint immediately what's going right, what's going wrong. And I was watching this woman swipe, and she was so negative, and she was swiping left on people just for no reason whatsoever.
Like the most minute detail.
Yeah, and I made her go, on Hinge you can do an undo, and I made her go back and tell me why, which I know annoyed her. But like one guy, she was like, he's bald. I said, so are most men. I need better than that.
If not now, then in the future.
Another one, he's a fireman. I said, and? I was waiting. Well, I don't, and I said, I'm listening. Like, I can be a little persnickety about things.
Persnickety, sorry. I haven't heard that word in a while.
Best word I could
really
come up
is.
with. I don't want to be like, I'm a jerk. And I said, well, he's saving lives. She's like,
masculine,
okay.
It's attractive.
And I said, I'm not here to change your mind. I said, but I am here to ask the why. Because if you're just generalizing about people for no apparent reason, because you think a thing that you haven't really thought through, it's worth thinking about the why. And that's a big part of my job too. Because I have, we all have a lot of people who are like, I want this and I don't want this. But like, it's usually familiarity. They're not familiar with something, so they think it's a no. So I deal with a lot of that too. So the 15-minute thing, I think people get more judgy after they do. You see enough profiles and you're like, nope,
I think men do
has one blue eye, no. And it's just like,
I think
come
men do
on.
the opposite. So that's like,
well,
I'm
men
sure.
swipe right on most people.
Yeah, I think men just do it for validation. It's like, oh, eventually I'll have a bunch of connections and then I'll just pick who I want to talk to.
Well, yeah. I mean, men and women swipe very differently in general. So like, everyone starts the same. If you don't like the first picture, swipe left. Like, that's universal. But this is where they differ. So generally, men, they like the first picture, they swipe right at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe they go back later to look. Maybe they don't. Whereas women, their swipes are more thoughtful. First, you look at the first picture. If it looks good, normal. It's not a selfie. It's not a shirtless gym picture. It's not a fish.
Then
whatever.
we delve a little deeper.
Yeah. Then we look at the rest of the pictures. Did they put words in their profile? Are there any words? Then of those words, if there are words,
are they smart?
Are they smart? Are they positive? Or is it like not looking for this, not looking for that? Is it written with like grammar? Is there a capital letter in there somewhere? You know what I mean?
You know what? In all honesty, like I remember when I was on the dating apps, obviously pre-Joe, if someone didn't have good grammar, I'd be like, no. Because it was like a big pet peeve of mine.
Well, you have one chance to show who you are. It either shows that the intelligence is not the type of intelligence you're looking for. It's not to say everyone who's smart has to be a great writer.
100%.
Or it's careless.
Yeah.
And then, women, look at the rest of the pictures. Then if all that is satisfied, then you get a right swipe. And so I have a lot of women asking me, I don't understand. He swiped right on me also. Why isn't he responding to me? And I have to be the bearer of bad news to say that his swipe didn't mean the same thing that yours did.
So you're touching on all the things.
I don't
all
even
the
need these
things.
questions. Hey, I think we're just that was so free flowing.
Some of the other things that I've come to know are women in particular take either lack of response or rejection on a dating app so personal when men just see it as a number. It's just like, oh, like I'm not responding to you because I don't like your profile. It's just I just randomly happen to
You're like, I've got
connect
11
with you
other
and
matches.
I forgot about it or I don't care about it.
I know. I have to do a lot of coaching around that because people take it really personally, and I have to be like, they don't know you.
It's just a number.
They don't know how
to
great
some
you
guys.
are, obviously.
Yeah, and I think I can't, like, whenever I use dating apps, and obviously, so I met Hannah on Hinge, and I would just be like, okay, if I really am into this person, I want to get on a date with them right away.
Yes.
Like, that's it.
Yes.
And we went
And
on a date.
I was very similar too.
Yeah, and like, of course you're somewhat attracted to somebody because you're swiping, right?
Yeah.
But what was so amazing about our date was that we had so much to talk about. The energy was flowing. It was like we just met in real life because like we connected and met.
Yeah, it was like he picked me up at a bar.
You couldn't have known that if you had texted for an extra week because it's not the same.
Yeah, and I probably, even though I think she's so beautiful, I probably would have just been like,
You are beautiful.
I probably would have just been like, okay, like I'm too busy, or there's a lot of beautiful people, not
Well,
as beautiful, but you just get lost in
And
the
truth be
shuffle.
told, like,
Well said.
and truth be told, when we matched, I had on Hinge, I had like 75 matches. I
I'm
had
sure you
so
did.
many of them, and it was really difficult and overwhelming for me to be able to wade through them and be like, oh, what's happening? So the fact that he was like, hey,
Yep.
think you're beautiful, whatever it was, and then when can I take you out?
Well,
I loved it.
I don't know if that's how you said it because I might have feedback on that. But
No, it was like
clearly it worked.
Something to
No.
that effect.
But I
It was-
will say, I do have women sometimes say, well, he didn't respond to me, so he's not interested. And I agree that it has nothing to do with that. Sometimes yes, sometimes he's not. But sometimes he forgot. He didn't log in. He's with his family. He's with his kids. I don't know. And so it's funny. I'll always suggest, actually, if you've been having a nice conversation with someone and they just drop off, just check in. They probably forgot. It's not, and I'll often have women be like, no, if he wants to write to me, he will write. And I'll say, or just send a little reminder to pop
Because
to
you
the
have nothing
top and
to
see what
lose.
happens. Nothing to lose. He doesn't know how great you are yet. He forgot. Sorry.
Okay, now
People are busy.
because
Yeah.
we are pushing people to meet very quickly
Mm-hmm.
because that's what we think happens best with connection.
Yeah.
What do you advise for safety and like things to do as a woman?
Nothing.
Because like as a man, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go anyway,
I mean,
and
honestly,
you did it.
nothing that outrageous. I don't give a lot of the safety pointers that I think some dating coaches do, which is fine. I just think keep your wits about you. Meet in a public place. Make sure your phone is charged.
Yep.
Um,
Nothing wrong with texting
I-
your friends and being like, hey, this is where I'm going.
Sure, if you want to share your location with a friend, fine. I don't think you need a whole other phone number, though I do understand that some people like to use a Google Voice number.
I love it because coming from me, it doesn't hit as hard because I'm not a woman. So having someone as prolific as you say those words, it's very refreshing. Because I mean, listen, the last thing I want is for anyone to happen,
course.
anything to happen to anyone.
Of course, me too.
But if you take a step back and look at it, like if you go on a date to a coffee shop in the West Village or in anywhere, there's
You're in a
a
public
very,
place.
very, very small percent chance that something can happen.
I agree. I mean, use your common sense,
Yeah.
and I think that's the main thing to use.
Yeah.
And I get that some people are really scary. That's not just online. That's anywhere you're gonna encounter scary people.
Yeah, we used to get really, I mean, obviously it's social media. We get really nasty messages about, I can't believe you push people to meet so quickly. This is like crazy. And I would just say, like, if somebody was a rapist or a killer,
Gosh.
they would not need my app to
To
do
be able to
anything.
do that.
Like,
But
Well,
also at the same time, what's the difference of meeting somebody out at a bar?
well,
That's
exactly.
that's
You
Yeah.
know
the
less
question to it.
about them. At least you have some
At
information.
least you
Right.
have a
on the
little bit of
person.
like a last name and perhaps a
Yeah.
link to their social media or like a little bit of
Well,
information.
okay,
about
let's
them.
talk about that because
Yeah.
I don't have people look. I encourage people not to look people up before, which I realize as we go forward that may be in the minority. But
I also
No,
am the
I'm,
same
I
way.
don't
we're big
recommend-
advocates for that.
I don't recommend connecting your Instagram in the apps. It's too much information. It gives people way too much access to you that they should not have access to.
Yeah.
Second, like there's something to be said for learning about each other organically, and so I recommend not looking people up beforehand. I don't have people ask last names. I don't do background checks or anything, and some people scoff at that, and I say, you know what? Use your best judgment.
I
No,
love
but
that.
because also as to what we were talking about earlier, it creates this level of expectation, this preconceived notion about who this person is
Yeah.
versus who they actually are.
Right.
Well, what I always say, and I think we're another great example, is like the personal things that you're going to find on Google,
Yeah.
or if there are personal things, like if you didn't have Google or you met somebody in real life, it
Yeah.
takes like time for that level of trust to be built to
Naturally,
talk about those
I
things.
organically
I
unravel.
So
completely agree.
Hannah and I, when we first met, like on the outside, we thought about the world and politically very different, like extremely different.
Uh-huh.
But we had this level of communication and
Yeah.
connectivity where we were like, oh, let's talk about this a little
Yeah.
bit more.
Also
And
think our
obviously we got way
morals-
past it and we became like in the middle.
Yeah.
But if I Googled her and like knew this is how she thinks politically and so I think
You
we would
would've
have
said
never
no.
met. We would have never met.
Of course. So, okay, I want your opinion on something that
Yes.
happened today.
Okay.
Okay.
Bring it
This is a thing today. I hope she doesn't watch this. I had a client who I set her up on a date with a man I found for her on Match.com. She rated, I have clients, after I set them on a first date, they fill out a survey after. and she rated the date a 10 out of 10. And I'm
Is that rare?
It is rare.
Okay.
Especially from this person. Just, she wasn't as, like, emotive usually and just, like, didn't connect with everyone. Whatever. Anyway, so I was thrilled. I was so happy. Okay, they go out again, another good date. They go out again, and she sends me a text that night saying, I can't believe I wasted my time. This guy's a Trumper. Okay, so I'm not giving any connotation on how I feel about this. I'm asking you. She had a 10 out of 10 date. She liked him enough to go on 3 dates with him. Look, obviously I'm anti anything Trump. Like, I'm happy to say that on the record. I would have felt very upset if that happened to me too. But I was curious, so I asked her, would you take back the 10 out of 10 date? Because you felt great. You felt great about him. You felt great about yourself. He was a good person. And it's kind of like gray area because she said, I never want to see this man again. And in some ways I agree because, but on the other hand, before she knew that, she was really excited about this person.
So it's one factor of his life.
Yeah, and I have so many feelings about it because on the political side, I totally agree with her. But on the other, how do you say I would take back that 10 out of 10 date? I felt better on this date than any date in the last year.
You want my opinion?
Yeah, I want your opinion.
Me, I mean, and again, everybody's different. I would never let politics interfere with my connections with anybody. And that's just my, like, listen, if you and I differ politically and you go support something or go do something, I won't go.
Yeah.
But if you treat me amazingly and I treat you amazingly and we have some deep connection, I would never, because the other thing I think about is a lot of people, I would say 90% of people don't even know a thing about politics.
Well, I agree with that. I just had so many mixed feelings about it because most people who are into Trump, and I don't want to get I'm not a political person, are not shy about sharing that information. So I was really surprised it didn't come out until the third date.
Yeah, so
Well, I guess,
is he a MAGA, MAGA
I don't
hat
know.
wearing,
Well, I guess,
outspoken?
But the point was, when you said if you had looked up Hannah and saw a thing you might have never met, like clearly she would not have met this guy if she saw that. But she didn't, and she liked him, and she liked him enough. And here's
a 10 out of 10.
It came back to me because she was blaming me.
Really?
And I'm like, she chose to go on the 3 dates. I didn't force her to go.
It's so fascinating, and I think, obviously.
Okay, sorry, this is fresh.
No, but it's fascinating.
But in all honesty, that's so interesting.
And we'll be very candid on. I think it was Hannah and I's 3rd date.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And like me, I'm very.
You'll love this.
In the middle
I'm ready.
I'm in the middle of everything.
Yeah, I'd say
like
you're much more of like a libertarian than you are anything else.
No,
not libertarian, but
I'm just very in the center. Like I just really like to play in the center. That's just me. So we met in 2020. This was like the height of all the Trump versus Biden, blah 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 blah. We were in California.
What's happening?
Can't even sharing
this
this.
so bad.
Can't even sharing this. We were in California and we were driving. There was a Trump rally. And it's a 3rd date. She rolls down the window and she's going nuts.
I'm literally losing my mind.
And I looked at her.
How dare you waste your fucking weekend on this shit?
And I looked at her.
This is amazing.
And I was like, don't do that. And like, this is a 3rd date. Like, I'm not her husband yet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you shouldn't like behave that way. And she's like, what do you mean? Like, fuck those people. And I was like, listen.
Because they're spreading hate. That was the only thing.
I was like, listen.
If you want to, I can fight fire with fire here.
I said, I was just baffled. I was like, I would never let somebody else doing anything. Of course, if you're harming someone, like that's terrible. But like, I would never let it negatively impact me that way. And like, it just opened up like so much dialogue for us.
Yeah,
it did.
I'm sure it did because, I mean, politics or whatever it is. Like I had a client once with a guy for 6 months. And she finds out 6 months in, I don't know if he told her or she saw something at his home, that he like does drugs sometimes. I don't know what drugs. I don't know the details.
Yeah.
And she said to me, and he was another one I found for her on Bumble and set her up with, and she was in love. Okay. And she's like, I could never date someone who does drugs. I said, but you are dating someone who does. I didn't know. I mean, I felt bad, but like, you don't know these things. And she goes, well, if I had known that. And I said, what? If you had known that, what? She's like, I never would have gone out with him. And I said, would you take back the last 6 months of being in love?
You know
I
what?
think
wait,
is-
wait,
go
let me
ahead.
just say this.
And
I
that's it. There's no
Yeah.
answer. It's a rhetorical question.
I think based on our own experience from this story that Joe just told, and probably many, many more conversations, to the woman that you were just talking about, referencing earlier, I think that whilst I understand where she's coming from, I really truly do, and it's probably a very shocking thing to the system first and foremost.
Yeah.
But one of the things I loved, and not that he's pro-Trump, but it was more like...
I'm a centrist.
Exactly, the
Get
centrist. The open dialogue that we then had about
I said
knowledge-
50% of the country is not pieces of shit. They
Yeah,
just
but it was
they
it
just
was that
think
open-
differently, and there's levels
But
to
it's
it.
not even that. It was that I don't care if she ever sees this man again because that's fine. But to tell me that she wasted 3 nights, that's what I had a harder time with. Because is it a waste if you went out with someone and you had a really nice time and you enjoyed yourself? And that's kind of where has nothing to do with politics.
Right.
Like, she's like, I could have been with my friends or home. And I thought, but you felt so good.
Right.
And so it's gray. There is no right or wrong here. But it was just, it goes back to what we were talking about, how sometimes when you learn things organically about someone, I guess you have a little more compassion or
Way more.
you have more data points on this person. You have more color.
It's so multi-dimensional. It really truly is because people are not one-dimensional.
If I knew everything about her
boy.
on our first date,
Yeah.
we
You couldn't know everything.
but we are so different. Like
Very different.
so she before me would like she was a Wilhelmina model in LA, like lived like a rock star lifestyle, like up late
believe that.
drinking, drugs, and this is when she was younger too. But like I never did that. I was like an athlete, goody two shoes.
I was always called a wild child. Like I was always very much into just
Yeah,
like
and-
spontaneous wild
Did you
things.
grow up here?
No, I grew up in Australia, but
oh.
I moved to Paris when I was 17 to start modeling.
Okay.
And then I lived all around the world just doing that and then settled in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah, but so that's one thing. I'm very much into fitness. She's like, I'm skinny. I don't really care. I don't want to be into fitness.
No, I just have natural abs.
So
I don't do it.
so that's the other thing. When I met her, she
I gotta
was
work for it.
she was a vegan. I was like, I didn't even know what that was when I met her.
He really didn't. He was like,
And
"What
like
is
we
that?"
had literally nothing in common,
Bar
but
our morals
our
and values.
connection, our morals and values was so connected that I was like, I don't
What do
care
you
what
mean
she.
when you say morals and values? Because a lot of people say that.
Yeah,
What
Can
do
I
you
speak
mean?
on that?
yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
say it? I
Yeah, I
think
want to
that
know what you mean.
I think that in terms of morals and values, the way that we what the legacy that we wanted to leave in this world was very similar. We both always from the very get go, from children, wanted to help people.
Okay.
And whatever sense that came about, that was the end goal. We're both very family oriented.
Okay.
We cherish the people around us very clearly, and we're both very driven. We're both very strong work ethic based human
Okay,
beings.
yeah.
So I think those are the types of morals, values. Even on a surface level, a lot of how we are is quite different. It's those things that really bind us together, and that's why it's like the advice to people. Sometimes I'm like, listen, even though there's one or two things that maybe you don't align on, in a way, that's so beautiful because he's taught me so much and I've taught him so much, and it's just this balance of
Yeah, I think that's really nice.
I've grown, you've grown, and it's because we're different. If
Yeah.
we were similar, it wouldn't work that way.
I think like the foundation is like kind of what you were saying. The foundation is, are you attracted to somebody? That's very important. Are they nice to you? And when you're with them, do you feel
How do
like
you
a sense of
feel?
joy? If
Yeah.
you have those 3 things, you should try and ride that out for as long as you can.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I remember once I had this client, nice guy in Houston, I think, and he went on this date, and he was so excited after, and I'm like, Seth, what did you like about this woman? And he starts listing things. He's like, well, she's Jewish, and she's this age, and she wants children, and she does this job, and she lives in this neighborhood. And I said, I don't think you understood the question. I said, what did you like about her? And it was so resume. It was so like checklist. And
I hate
what you
checklists.
just said, I do too. I think, I came up with something I thought was cute lately. It's outside the check box. I think that's outside. Think outside the check box.
Okay.
Oh, I
I
like
like
that. Think
that.
outside the box. You get it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the whiskey. What have you done? And we had to have a conversation about that. Like, how did you feel? Were you attracted? Did you feel attractive? Did you laugh? Did you smile? Did time pass
Did you get
by?
butterflies in your tummy?
Yeah, just like all the intangible things. Because I don't
Intangible,
care
that's a great word to use.
where she lives.
Yeah.
Because
And
that can change.
that can change just so many things. And so I completely agree that it's important to think about those intangibles, the feelings type things.
Yeah, we have a friend, and she will not even know that we're talking about her. She lives in LA, and she's got her checklist. And on her checklist, and this is not a joke. It's not a joke.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
On her checklist, the guy has to be a billionaire, not a millionaire, a billionaire. And when she first told me that, I thought she was joking. And she said, no, I'm serious. I said, okay, let me break this down for you. There are about 3 billionaires in your age demographic that you want that are single in America.
And that are over 6 foot. What is it? 6'2"?
And I said, so out of those 3 men, A, how are you going to get in contact with them? And B, don't you think there's hundreds of women that are also trying to be with this guy?
Also, and let me just say this, even though I adore her, this is not towards her, but this is just generalized. You think pretty fucking highly of yourself, mate.
Right.
Like, you think
why would he want to be with you?
Very high standard.
Well, that's an interesting point. So, when clients hire me, we talk through their criteria and we talk through their non-negotiables and deal breakers, and then their preferences, their nice to haves. And I think sometimes people forget, and I hate that I have to remind people, but it's part of my job, that not only do I have to take into account what they're looking for, but I also have to take into account who's looking for them. And so I can only send clients on dates with the overlap of the Venn diagram of who they're looking for and who's looking for them and who actually replies to a message and then who doesn't peter out in the conversation stage and then gets to the date. And sometimes I'll get feedback from clients and they'll say, I don't think you understood what I wanted, or I don't think you heard what I'm looking for. And I have to sometimes say, I try to be really nice about it, of course, but I say, I completely understand what you want, but I don't know what that person wants. And so it's the overlap of that, and I think that's the hardest sometimes for people to grasp.
Yeah, and I think that's, I think we were saying this yesterday, but if you can communicate fully on a first date about what you actually want, that's a great first step. But I had this suggestion of if you just date, you have to be paired up with some random person in life for 2 years and just figure it all out with them, and then
you think you could?
No, he's saying that he would in this far off mystical world that every person had to be paired up with another person for 2 years,
to just learn everything,
19, 20, to be able to
sexually
learn
and emotionally.
Sure, okay.
And then you just kind of really know what you want or don't want, and it's easier to navigate life, because I feel no matter how old you are, being single is challenging because, like you said, you know what you want, but you don't really know what the other person wants.
Well, right, and it comes into play when I'm writing clients' profiles, because I'll get a client who will tell me all of these wonderful things, and then they'll say, well, I want to write in a way that attracts the type of person who I'm looking for. And I'll say, no, we need to write in a way that expresses who you are. And the person who is attracted to you is going to respond to this. But I don't ever write in a way to attract the type of person because I don't know what the type of person you're looking for is looking for. And then it ends up being some watered down version of yourself. I like to laugh and have fun. I'm just as comfortable dressed up and dressed down. I like to go out and stay in. That tells me nothing. I want to know the weird quirks about you. I want to know that you like puns, and I want to know that you play ping pong on the weekend, whatever it is. And those are the things that will resonate with the right person.
Yeah, because if you're not your true self on the app, and you go out with somebody on the first date, it's great. And then the 5th date, they find out who you really are.
Exactly.
And then this isn't for me. The person's pissed off.
Well,
it's
like a certain level of deception, right?
Yeah.
It's like the rabbi lying about the way that the people met. But you know what I mean? But it's like you're starting off what you're doing with a level of deception, and that's never going to end.
I also feel like it's a lack of confidence in those quirks are what make you you.
Yeah.
I want those things to be front and center in your profile. When I write people's profiles, sometimes people say to me, it doesn't get to the core of who I am. And I'll say, you're right. It does not. I could never get to the core of who you. I can't get to your values and morals in a profile. I can get to the fact that you make a really good, pizza on the grill. I can get to the fact that you go bird watching in Central Park. I can get to the fact that on every Tuesday you pick up your niece from school. Whatever it is. Those are things that people can latch onto. People can ask you questions about. I call it message bait. I like to plant as much message bait in the profile as possible, so that message bait is basically something someone can comment on or ask a question about. They feel brilliant because they've asked you a relevant question. You're brilliant because you planted it there. Everybody wins.
Yeah, I remember before I met Hannah, one of the big things I loved, I don't know why, it would be like, if you could date anybody in the world, who would it be? And if a woman said Larry David, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a great date. No, it's just going to be a great date. Like, we're going to be so aligned the way we find humor.
Got that humor.
Yeah,
exactly.
the humor's going to be aligned. I love the fact that she actually put that in the profile.
Yeah.
Like, this is great. And I think little things like that go a long way because
they do.
They're not like, oh, I
Run-of-the-mill.
love lingerie. It's like, okay, like, great.
Yeah, I can't
like, I
comment
don't
on
care
lingerie.
about that.
But yeah, like I do this thing, and I do know it might get on a client's nerves sometimes. But I'll do this little test. I'll have them read their profile to me, and I'll put my hand up if I could have written the same thing. And if my hand up is up the entire time, like I could have also written, I like to laugh. Or I could have also written family is important to me, or communication is whatever. It doesn't matter the words.
Mm-hmm.
If my hand is still up at the end, it means it's too generic. And then that's when I ask them questions. I'll try to get the client to think about just fun things in their life. I ask, like, what do your friends tease you about? What's your favorite snack? Like, what is your favorite snack?
Rainbow cookie.
I love that. See, that's my favorite question. What's yours?
Salt and vinegar chips.
See, I feel like I just learned so much about you from your favorite. I like pita chips and hummus. So, they're all very viable snacks. There's
Wait, you know what you need to try if you love hummus?
Please.
Sweet chili Doritos dipped in hummus. Thank you later.
I'm going to buy them tonight.
It is the most ridiculous combination ever.
I will stop at the store on the way
You
home.
have to. If you don't, I'll be angry.
That sounds amazing.
So good.
So like that already set us apart. I could ask you a question about your rainbow cookies. I could ask you a question, why salt and vinegar and not cheddar sour cream, whatever, who cares? And you could ask me about, is it Sabra hummus? Who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I've already learned more about you than if you had said I like to laugh.
Yeah, and I also I think people need to get more comfortable with self-deprecation in a funny way. Like, I love...
I mean, that's a style of humor.
Not taking yourself so seriously. I think
Yeah,
that's what you're trying
I mean,
to
that
say.
same thing with the Larry David thing. Like, if someone made fun of themselves in a way that was like, wow, that's really cool because it's not really that big of a deal what you're making fun of yourself about, but it's showing that you
Well,
could...
if they do that, at least it shows their sense of humor.
Right, yeah.
Like,
I
I hate
that.
sarcasm. I will go on the record saying here's what I don't understand sarcasm.
Okay.
Okay, I find myself asking at least 3 people a day, are you being sarcastic? Because I genuinely can't tell. So if someone is self-deprecating, at least it says something about their humor. If someone's sarcastic, that's not a person I understand, but that's cool because they've expressed themselves. You know what I mean?
I absolutely hate to cut us off. We're going to
I
need
know,
part 2.
we're
Oh my God.
It's literally been...
Do you have anything that you want to touch base on?
I just want to do rapid fire.
Okay.
I think that would be the
This
best.
is great.
And
Yeah,
then
we could do this for hours.
Seriously.
We'll have to have a part 2 because I feel like I literally had about 20 questions I was going to ask you, some of which you answered organically, which I'm very happy about, but part 2 definitely coming. All right, rapid fire.
Right.
What is your favorite groan-worthy pun?
Oh my God. How can you tell if it's a dad joke?
How?
It's apparent.
You fucking idiot. Oh my God, that's ridiculous.
I know.
All right, if you could create a dating app feature that doesn't exist yet, what would it be and why?
Oh my gosh.
That's hard.
A dating app feature that doesn't exist yet. What would it be and why? I think there should be, and I know various apps have tried to do this. I know The League has tried to do it. I know Bumble tries to do it with texting. I would love a speed dating that has video chat. You get 3 minutes with each person, and then within those 3 minutes, though, you have to schedule an in-person date, or else you lose the connection.
Ooh,
I like that a lot.
That.
What's your favorite unconventional date idea that you think more people should try?
Mini golf.
Yeah. What's one thing you always
And put a bet on it. Like, if I win mini golf, we do a fun thing.
We're big betters on that stuff.
We're very
betting.
big betters on that type of stuff. One thing you always carry with you?
I don't carry many things.
It's going to be one
I
thing.
rarely even have a purse.
Joe?
I'm taking notes about what she said
Oh,
because that was a great
I'm
suggestion.
sorry. I'm thinking.
No, it was a great suggestion. I had to not forget it.
Oh, deodorant. I have my right armpit gets a little stinky.
Just your right
the
one?
right. Yeah.
Self-deprecation. I
Sorry
love
for-
it.
That's just the truth.
She's like, this is facts. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Oh, this one is a little controversial.
I'm ready for it.
I talked about this yesterday to somebody. I want to know when people are talking about me, whether it's good or bad.
Okay, I like that.
I just want to know what they're
okay.
saying.
Like your ears would literally burn.
Yeah,
You could feel it?
And I don't care what it. I mean, I might care, but I just want to know when I'm coming up in conversation.
Okay.
All right, fair. Favorite comfort food?
Let's go with a muffin. Just
Blueberry or chocolate
I
chip?
don't know why that made me laugh,
like
but
just like microwaved for 10 seconds.
I don't know.
Just like a muffin.
Okay. Like
Best
that.
advice you've ever received?
Best advice? Gosh,
Can be a one-liner.
I don't know.
Or worst advice.
It's hard. Or worst advice.
Oh, my dad said to me once, he left me this voicemail in college when I was dating, when he thought I was being too picky. He's funny. He goes, all men go bald and have earwax. I don't know why he said that, but he
That's
said
either
it.
the greatest or the worst
very
advice ever.
funny.
It's such a crossover.
All right.
All right. Two more.
Okay.
One item on your bucket list?
I feel like I do all the things I want to do.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Yeah, I'm living my best life.
Nice.
All right.
I don't have one. I'm sorry.
I know that's the best answer ever. Is like you're already kind of living the way that you want to be
I
living.
really am.
One thing you're grateful for today.
Oh my gosh. I will say I moved to New York less than a year ago. I had spent a good amount of time here, but I am grateful that I do something that allowed me to move where I wanted. New York is the best fit for me. I see Broadway every week. I'm
Oh,
just
that's
like,
awesome.
I just love that. My hair fits better here, my accent. So I'm very grateful to live where I want to live.
That's awesome. I have one more too.
Okay.
Oh boy.
And this is for your clients
is
or
fun.
for you.
Okay. Oh boy.
Fuck, marry, kill, Tinder, Bumble, Hinge.
That is a good question.
Kill Tinder.
Okay.
Marry Hinge, F Bumble.
Okay.
Love that. That was a really good
I
question.
just had
I'll
to
give you
ask.
my rationale on part 2.
Okay.
Please, yes. Erica, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here today. It was literally
Thank
just
you.
having the
Yeah, we
greatest
could
chat
have done this
ever.
for hours.
Yay.
Where can people find you?
Yeah.
You can find me anywhere at A Little Nudge. So my business is called A Little Nudge, alittle.nudge.com, Instagram, all the things at A Little Nudge.
She also has a
Amazing.
book called Love at First Sight, SITE, which I
Yep.
think is hilarious. Again, with the puns.
Thank you. I do love my puns.
But this has just been so wonderful. We cannot wait until part 2.
Me too.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Erica.
you.
Thank you.